Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Maps Are Dead. I'm Mike D. Again, the name of the podcast, kind of a weird one, is based on my book Extraordinary from years ago, where we said, how do you make a map only works if the person mapping has been where you're going. So how do you make decisions when no one else can tell you what to do? I'm kind of excited. We got a different conversation today than most. Today's conversation is with someone I've known for decades, literally. Dr. Luke Powery. Hi, Luke.
Hey, Mike.
I never call you doctor, but I was like, man, I should make sure I have the doctor in there.
Make it official.
Oh, so funny. Luke, so I told my friends, they're like, who's this Luke guy? Rick, my assistant, was asking. I'm like, Luke is basically my brother at this point. Like, I'm kind of the spare of the brothers, and his sister refer to me as the spare. I'm Uncle Mike, right?
Most definitely.
We've eaten at weddings and cried at funerals. I think I picked you up for your honeymoon when you and Gail flew into San Francisco, right? Stopping off. I'm like, yeah, I'll get you to the airport.
You did.
But Luke is the dean. He is the dean of Duke University Chapel, a professor of homiletics, African American studies, and one of the most respected voices in theology and preaching today. His book, Becoming Human, won Book of the Year from the Religious Community Association. He's been honored by institutions from Morehouse College, Duke University for his leadership, his impact. But what I love is that he's a person to me. And so at first I was like, I'm going to have the dean of the Duke Chapel. Now, most people don't realize that Duke even has a chapel, but I was like, a dean from Duke, this is a good leadership podcast. I'll have that on.
Right.
But I thought, here's the other thing. Also, Luke, I was like, spirituality and faith. And as the dean of the chapel at Duke University, a well-respected, highly prestigious, intense place with high expectations, to talk about how we see people making decisions and how faith plays into that. I was like, this could be a fun conversation. Yeah. So I appreciate you being on here today, man.
Hey, man, it's great to be with you. Yeah, in this way.
We've been all other places. But I said to you before we started, I was like, man, when we met 27 years ago or so, I'm like, it's been a while now.
Yeah.
I wasn't going, yeah, Luke's going to be the dean of Duke Chapel. I'm like, that's not. So I guess to start kind of this story, because I'm not going to dive into Clifton strengths as much, but I have your Clifton strengths in my head because I've seen your children's strengths. I was like, the results, I was like, that part's Gail, that part's Luke. So we'll spare the Clifton strengths conversation right now. But when I met you 27 years ago, this wasn't where I saw you. When you think, to start with you, when you look back at where you're kind of halfway. We're both halfway. We're the same age, 3 months apart.
Yeah.
When you get to halfway, what stands out to you as the decisions that you had to make that get you where you sit today?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's, how much time do you have, right? But no, I mean, well, places and people. I think in one way, if I think about coming out of Miami, Florida, out of high school, I had some options to go to different universities, but I also had 2 options actually to play baseball in college. One was a D3 school, or I was in conversation. Another one would have been a D1. But when I was accepted into Stanford University, right? Nothing to do with baseball, whatever. It was a no-brainer. I made I was like, I'm going, right? Even though there were other options.
And because it was Stanford, what was it that cut through the noise? What do you think cut through the noise for you?
Dwight was out there already, our brother Dwight. Yep. Dwight actually paid the application fee for Stanford.
Okay.
That was a different day.
Then, that was a different day.
And it was a last-minute application. And really it was the family draw, but I had spent the summer out there, the summer before my senior year in high school. So I got a feel for that Bay Area.
Yeah.
And it was, for me, it was, no, I'm going to Stanford. I saw it as an opportunity, but that's a place. But to be honest, I didn't know what I was going into. I was thinking, tech, funny enough. Right? Hewlett Packard. Was thinking.
That's where Dwight and I met. I was actually he helped me get the job.
Right. But I was a music major. Right. But there was a man talking about people There was a man, Floyd Tompkins, who was the associate dean of the chapel at the time at Stanford,
Okay.
who really became a mentor. And when I was grappling sophomore year, I was like, why am I, because I didn't, this tech stuff, computer C language, through
Mm.
classes, coursework was
Yeah.
helping me figure things out.
Yeah.
And even though some classes were tough or whatever, then I took a music theory class. I was like, oh, there's connection there.
Yeah.
And then Floyd, conversations. This is somebody older you could talk to,
Yeah.
and they just listen. They don't, without judgment. They're just
Yeah.
listening. And I started, got deeper into music. And then back in the day, they didn't have minors at Stanford. There were only double majors. And I was like, I decided I'm not doing a double major. I'm doing one major.
We like hard work, but you and I are similar in that. Let us not take on a burden that's not
Right.
necessary.
Right. So then I said, I'm doing the music. I don't know for what or what that's going to look
Yeah.
like. My dad was wondering because I had Emerson. I was told, Emerson, you got to get dad off my back
Yeah.
because he was wondering, what are you going to do with the music
With a
degree?
music degree. How are you
So,
going to pay the bills on that, son?
yeah, no, it was a live question. But I took an education class back in the day. And when I started answering, when people asked me, what are you going to do? I said, maybe it's something in education.
Hmm.
I didn't know what. I had no idea what that meant.
Yep.
And so the short of it is then then seminary came on the radar. And Emerson, as you know, went to Princeton Seminary.
Yep.
Floyd Tompkins was an alum of Princeton Seminary. And then it was the only seminary I ended up applying to because by that time, I wasn't thinking about, being a reverend. I
Yep.
was thinking about going to school to do a theological foundation for music.
Hmm.
So that was my frame. So I ended up going there. But again, that was probably the highlight of my educational journey, Princeton Seminary, Theological Seminary, like the connections with people,
Yep.
professors, people who believed in me. I mean,
Yep.
I can't tell you. I had TAs, I had other faculty that I'm still in touch with, those that are alive,
Yeah.
that really I can call if I have a decision to make, or when going there, like people who said, are you thinking about further work, doctoral work?
Yeah.
That wasn't on my radar, but they saw something. And that's been the thing. People have seen things in me that I haven't seen in myself. And so like the
Yeah.
world opened up,
Hmm.
the church world in a different way, internships in Switzerland,
I remember.
experiences on a college campus, Westminster Choir College. I served as an intern. I was a campus pastor there. They created a job for me. I mean, that's been a part of the journey
Yeah.
too. It's wild.
Yeah.
And then after that, I got married. I served a church in Switzerland back at the same place I was
Yeah.
an intern. Again, the people, their
Yep.
connection. And then, but I had the burning yes. Like I said, the burning yes allows you to say no to a good situation. We were in a place in Zurich. It was rocking. I was
Yeah.
associate pastor. People thought I was crazy. I left after 3 years, basically, to go to grad school,
Hmm.
University of Toronto.
I
And
remember.
I never looked back. I haven't looked back because I knew there was a sense that, no, I want to go deeper. I want to do
Yep.
this thing. And so, again, the person there, Paul Scott Wilson, somebody who still writes me, my mentor, like he's paying attention,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Were
so
you
that's been
aware?
it.
Were you aware of that power though at that moment where you're there? Because like you're right, as you like people and places, this relationship. Wow, that voice and the thing they see. I believe what they're saying to me. And like, where have you always had that belief that you can tell the voices that see you versus the voices that don't?
I think maybe in the moment, that
Mm.
might be the retrospective look,
Yeah.
right? When
Right.
I'm,
Which is a gift. Yeah.
yeah, the retrospective that I'm still here to ponder. But
Yes.
like in the moment, you're just going through it. You're
Mm.
wrestling. It's more of
Yep.
an internal wrestling, an intellectual wrestling and trying to figure out, you know, what
Yeah.
what what direction, because there could be multiple options.
Yep.
And, there have been times when I've made decisions, even in seminary and these jobs or different things that came up while I still remember I had taken a job part-time at a church in music, and it was like so immediate. I said no. I had said
Yeah.
yes. I said no, and I'm going to do this other thing. And sometimes that clarity comes, sometimes it doesn't,
Right.
but again, being in conversation with other people has been helpful, and I can totally say that now. So even with our children, go reach out, talk, go be in conversation,
Yeah.
because that, for me, man, I have mentors, I've had mentors, and for my journey, I mean, that's just been incredible,
I
you know?
think you're tapping into something there because I think about my journey, same thing in that a lot of it's been discovered, right? I mean, and this isn't
Yep.
about me in this space, but I hear we have similar stories, and I talk to other people, typically our age, right? Gen Xers space.
Mhm.
It's kind of funny, and maybe I'll get your reaction to this. I kind of make up in my head that the 20-year-old today is a little cheated in that the information has overwhelmed the space where they think they need to have some clarity of a map where or there's less ability or encouragement to discover it. To go, you don't need to have 7 steps. Take 2 or 3.
Right.
Discover it in the people that you're meeting. Discover it in the opportunity that goes wrong. Discover it in the project. And
Exactly.
there was a lot of, I just knew a next step. I didn't know 7 steps.
That's
Do you
it.
feel, and because you're in a place I'm not, where you have, if you're you have a new son-in-law freshly in the last 6 months. Sorry to miss that. I was stuck in Europe, didn't get to get back
Man,
in
we
time for
missed
that
you,
one.
Uncle Mike.
I missed it. I got very sad messages when I had to RSVP no. First wedding I missed in a while. But you have a new son-in-law, and so they're young as a couple.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have you have a sophomore in
Yep.
college now,
Yeah.
second year in. Can't believe that.
Yeah.
You're actually around people that you're actually around in your job and in your personal life, you and Gail.
Mm.
Do you feel like they have the same opportunity to make those decisions? Is there different pressure on them than there was on us?
Yeah. Um, I think so. I mean, I think at that stage,
Sure.
people feel the internal pressures anyway, right? Like I,
Right.
I did through it, but I do think, you know, coming here, if I just think about Duke, and I'm sure that other institutions, but these are the students I know. I mean, some will come in, even some of my son's friends. I mean, they come in, they know their 4-year plan. I mean, they
Yeah.
have it all, the strategy. But a lot
Right.
of students don't, right? But
Right.
I think there is a pressure to decide. I mean, sophomore
Yeah.
year, as an example, I mean, they have to decide a major by the end of the sophomore year. But
Right.
that's why sophomore year is more pressure. I mean, I can't even tell you, adults in the last couple of days, bumped into a junior today, and she said, "Oh yeah, sophomore year is tough because the pressures
Yeah.
of decision making.
Right.
What am I going to major in? What am I going to do next summer?" And these things come, you can't wait till the summer to make that decision. You got to think
Yeah.
about it now. So
Yeah.
it's like and so I don't know if it's more or different. I mean, obviously social media and all
Yeah.
that, the pressures could be there in terms of, what they're seeing, what they're from other people around the world, and, all of that information overload, that totally is different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know how that feeds into the mental health challenges of this generation.
Yeah.
That's different,
Yeah.
than when we were growing up. So I think those layers, but yeah, I mean, to me, it's as you walk,
Yeah.
every step can be a helpful way to help you use the word discern
Hmm.
kind of the next step,
Yeah.
because you're not going to see, the experiences, the people, the whatever, the class, the
Yeah.
community service, all these things is data to kind of inform or
100%.
even shape, right? What you may actually decide in the end.
And what you're talking about, I think, it's a powerful thing. I for years have made my personal motto, follow the relationship. It's a thing I say online and thing I
Mm.
write about a lot. But what you're describing is there's a power to it. And people have always kind of laughed and be like, yeah, hashtag follow the relationship, Mike D, because I always say that. But professionally, I can trace all my clients back to 5 relationships in the early days, 20 years in business. We're doing
Mm.
work internationally with the foundation, and we're doing work in Nigeria and Honduras. I'm just back this week from trips to both countries. And we'll say when the systems of trust are gone, the only current meaning, the infrastructure, the power, the banking, the corruption, the government, and all these different places
Mhm.
where we're doing um, economic development and investment in people.
Mhm.
The only system that works is the trust amongst friends that will keep commitments to each other. And the
Mm.
power of a relational network is the network that you can build. And in the days of AI, more and more, I'm
Yeah.
now hearing more people going, we need human experience. you know what? I don't want virtual. If I want virtual, unless it leads me to human. I want digital
Right.
that leads me to flesh. I want
Yeah.
digital that leads me to the in-person. And what I hear in your story is that there's still a lot of truth in the relationships you build are key to being healthy enough to make the decisions that reflect the best version of you.
Most definitely. And you're not, and this is the other thing. It's not, and we're not saying I'm going to make this or kind of nurture this relationship as a way to a means
Yeah.
to. That's
Right.
dangerous,
It's
right?
not, it's not a tool or leverage.
Right, a tool. You're just using people.
Yeah.
But to
It's not networking.
genuinely build that trust, and again, but that's the interesting thing. It doesn't, I can have a relationship with somebody, but I don't need anything. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to network or get something from someone, real friends, regardless of who they are. I'm just taking them as they are,
Yeah.
as a human, as a friend, right? A companion. And that's the gift. Now,
Yeah.
over time, these relationships, and it's amazing how that stuff comes back. How since I've been at Duke, as an example, Stanford
Yeah.
has come back on the radar.
Hmm.
People, I've been out
Yep.
there. Floyd Tompkins, who I mentioned earlier, is back in California, not at the institution, but still related.
Yep.
It's been an interesting coming here.
Yeah.
Board members, trustees of the university here, doing joint meetings with the trustees at Stanford. A key family here at Duke is, and I'm looking at my undergraduate certificate, bachelor's, they were Duke parents. He actually was the chair of the Stanford trustees as an undergrad. His signature is on my
That's
diploma.
amazing.
It's
Yeah.
wild,
Yeah. The
right?
way,
And
and
so it's that web, right, of
mhm.
the journey of life,
Yeah.
you know, that's it's just amazing. It's amazing to me.
When because you really do have, again, people and places. I'm going to keep coming back to that. It's a good
Hmm.
hook for me. When you go through those spaces, you and I grew up in similar evangelical circles, and I'll talk a little more about that as we get into another question I want to
Yeah.
ask later.
Yeah.
But it's easy. There's a lot of opinion in very traditional faith traditions. A lot of times,
Yeah.
a lot of people have the words. A lot of people have very specifics. Interestingly, though, that in the midst of that, you found voices that somehow you actually followed, or it reflected something, or it gave you encouragement that aren't traditional. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting here going, he's at Stanford getting a degree in music. He's going to go do theology at Princeton in a world where you and I both know all that was required to do music in church was guitar and the fact that you knew the pastor. Like, I'm going, that's a whole lot of education, brother. And
Right.
you guys used to sing together. I mean, you have a great voice. You didn't really need to study
Right.
music at Stanford to do that.
Right.
But somewhere in there,
Yeah.
something reflects a value that you're like, no,
Mhm.
this is what I want. And
Yeah.
you're going to move this direction. What do
Yeah.
you think? Did you have a sense of, I hunt for voices that I feel like see me, or am I clarifying me? How are you choosing who you're listening to? Because it's not just any
That's a good.
relationship.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's a good question, man. It's funny because when I was in California, there was a man, I don't remember, but that was actually at my brother's church, my sister-in-law's
Yeah.
church back in the day. And he
Mhm.
said to me, because I was going to Princeton Seminary, he said to me, "Oh, you don't want to," he says, "Be careful you don't lose your faith," or something like that. And I looked at him and I thought, but I know that track, that
Yeah.
thinking, but
Yeah.
my brother had gone already, Floyd, these are people I trusted and
Yep.
knew, and they weren't wacko or
Mhm.
whatever this person, and often in that case, these are people that have never been to these institutions.
Yeah.
They've never walked through the hallways. They don't know anybody,
Right.
really. They
Yeah.
don't know the
They've
culture.
never seen them.
They don't know the air. They're on the outside making their
Yep.
judgment. And for me, that also, because I knew people, and then especially now, I've known people that, I mean, for me, it was education was always important.
Yep.
And even my brother Emerson, coming out of high school, it's funny. He would say I was Harvard bound. I never applied to Harvard,
Hmm.
but I'm coming out of high school. I even created a sign that said Harvard bound. Funny enough.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
it was to think out of the box
Yeah.
beyond what others may, kind of keep you in the box,
Yeah.
to go beyond. It doesn't mean, oh,
Yeah.
Harvard is better than this or Duke is
No.
better, but it's to say don't think traditionally, right?
Mm.
If I followed other people, Mike, I had people say, why don't you go into music ministry? But what they meant, because I just kind of casually sat down at the piano, it was therapy for me,
Yeah.
relaxing. I was a music major, but their thinking, which is fine, that's for them,
Yeah.
was going to be a traditional, whatever, music minister, as we would say in the Church of God church or something.
Yeah.
And I knew you're not putting me in that
Mm.
box, because I knew there was something more. I didn't know
Yeah.
exactly what,
Yeah.
but it was
Yeah.
always more. And it's been an evolution.
Yeah.
That's really what's happened, because remember, I went to seminary not considering ordination as a minister,
Yes.
right?
That's what I kind of wondered about.
Then it evolved,
Mhm.
and through experience, right? Internships. I served the church for a summer in Switzerland. Bingo. Things again,
Yep.
broadened. It
Yep.
broadened. Now I'm going to add that. Then after a few years, in Switzerland, oh, now I'm going back to school. It's broadening.
Yep. Yep.
And then the rest is history. It's been that kind of journey of,
Yep.
Academy Church. It's not a tradition. I
Yep.
mean, there are people that do what I do. There is a certain, you're in higher ed. I
Mm.
love higher ed,
Yep.
and thinking about faith in places like this. And it's interesting. It's
Yep.
not the traditional, it's not church, as we would say, local congregation. That's not what
Yeah.
I do. That's not that, which is where people, I think, were tracking me, but the
Yep.
journey has been different. It's been more expansive than that.
Because that view of yourself in the midst of that, because there's the big vision of like faith circles, but I even laugh because I'm like, Dwight, your brother, who we both know, pays, you get to Stanford because he's out there working for HP.
Yeah.
There could be pressure there to be like, oh yeah, I'm in Stanford. I think I should go into tech. And I'm sure, we love your brother, but I can see him being like, how are you going to pay for this, Luke, or whatever. Emerson, and then you have your other brother who's
Right.
literally basically similar to the track you're on now. Academic faith is a big question.
Exactly.
To somewhere in the midst of that, go, this is me. What's interesting for me is I think about your journey, and again, and we'll get beyond just the conversation in this direction, but I think
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing. Like, I remember talking to you when I
Yeah.
realized that one of your focuses was preaching.
Yeah.
When I would meet people who would be academic, and that was a new thing for me. I grew up in a world where we were excited if pastors went to Bible school because they were self-educated, most of them. So getting
Right.
actual biblical degrees and things like that.
Yeah.
I was now learning about Princeton Seminary. I'm like, wow, there's advanced thought on faith.
Yeah.
But most of those people then go to seminary. I hear this stat a lot, thinking I'm going to get a job teaching in a seminary. It's less about I'm going to preach, or it's just I'm going to lead a church. And so I was
Yeah.
always fascinated by the fact
Yeah.
that in the midst of your academia, which is let us wrestle with the biggest questions of how we
Yeah.
conceive God, the universe, and his engagement with humanity, was let's talk about oratory.
Right.
Let's talk about how, because to focus on preaching is to go, I'm going to make a stab at
Yeah.
putting words to the questions we'll have wrestled with since the dawn of time.
Right. Yeah. For me, preaching, I told my class this week, I'm doing the very thing I ran away from.
I thought you were going to get to do something fun. You're like, no, you're actually doing it. You have to do it every day at class school.
And it's still an ongoing
Yeah.
kind of conversation, wrestling maybe too, but like what? And I think it's images of, preachers or pastors that are in my mind that I think I don't want to be that. And I'm not that, you know what I mean? But I have embraced it. And here I am teaching, preaching, and other things. And that's, a lot of my writing has been that scholarship. I wouldn't have chosen this for me. It's wild, man. The gift, the gift that's been given to one of the esteemed lectures in the world are the Lyman Beecher lectures at Yale Divinity School, like in preaching. I was invited to give those lectures in 2028.
Yep.
I'm thinking, are you kidding me? This is where, Brother Byron and Sister Mitty's youngest son.
Brother Byron. I grew up in a world where
You
everything's brother and sister,
brother
brother,
and sister, right.
brother, brother,
So
sister, brother,
it's
Gupta.
there are things that,
Yeah,
the unexpected also
right.
happens in life. That could be bad or good.
Yep.
And so there are things that I never imagined coming here.
Mhm.
I tell people you can't out strategize God.
Right.
And I tell students that all the time because I was teaching I was going up for tenure at Princeton Seminary. And then this email
Right.
came from here out of the blue.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So there are things maybe you kind of look towards, but
Yeah.
often it's kind of, foggy, not, you take one step at a time and then when that decision time
Yeah.
comes, then you got to make a decision, but it's a kind of evolution. It's been an evolution for me.
I
Really.
think that's important. Even I was talking to somebody yesterday. We are talking about athletes and how much preparation athletes do before the big moment, um, and how much I think knowing. I think we get into this perpetual mode of everything's a major decision. Going, there's moments that actually is about you preparing to decide. It's about you
Mm,
listening. It's about
right.
you preparing your heart and mind to make a decision about changing jobs, proposing to someone, having
Mm,
a child,
right.
making an
Right.
investment, starting a company, changing degrees.
Hmm,
I
hmm.
think there's a preparation.
Yeah.
I think life is more preparation and fewer
Mm,
moments of decision,
yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. That's true.
It,
And that's the perpetual, right?
yeah.
Aren't we
And so we're in a
deciding? We're
pending
deciding
space of
every
feeling
day.
good, right?
We're
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 deciding
deciding. I mean, okay, wake up. We don't decide that per se, but to get out of bed,
mhm,
you know
how
what I
we show
mean?
up. Yeah.
To show up. We're
Yep.
deciding every day. There are little decisions. To your point, that's exactly right.
I think about your role. And again, I like to keep coming back to the context because for me, that's part of the fun of it for me is, again, knowing where we both started at Faith
Yeah.
Spaces and, and people doing their very best to define the God they understand and know. And that's where we start.
Yeah.
From that point to now, here's the thing I think about. One, I think a lot of people are surprised to know that Duke has a dean, has a chapel.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they forget, we think of Duke as Fuqua Business School and Final
Right.
Four and NCAA sports and all
Right.
these things. Like that's Duke
Yeah.
in a lot of people's minds.
Right.
You, as the dean of chapel, I would have to imagine not only are you dealing with faculty, like you're actually teaching,
Yeah.
you're teaching
Yeah.
the students. You lead the chapel
Hmm.
staff. You have staff,
Yeah.
right? The chapel
Yeah.
is a thing. What's fascinating to me is I remember the first time I ever saw you on TV,
Oh.
on CBS News. And I'm like, oh, wait, that's Luke. What is that? I screenshotted it. I'm like, what is this? Um, in that moment of, because you are I would imagine, and this is my version, so tell me if the truth
Yeah.
is, I
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
imagine in your role, you're meant to be a voice that leads and that helps people navigate the questions of faith who have different faith traditions, right?
Right.
Duke
Right.
Chapel, it's not just, oh, this is a Judeo-Christian, this is Islamic, this is Muslim, this is Buddhist, this is agnostic, this is, you're asked to be a spiritual leader and director in a different way. How do you find that when you get tapped to be the voice of? I saw stuff during the Black Lives Matter protests. I've seen different
Hmm.
things at different times.
Yeah.
Whether you get called and say, hey, speak the voice of faith for us as a community
Yeah.
in a space. What does that require of you? What does that pulled out of you that you're like, I'm at one, if I got you the role right, but
Yeah.
two,
Yeah.
what does that require of you as you navigate a spiritual leadership in a multifaceted faith community that is a
Yeah.
public college campus, a public
Yeah.
university, a
No,
major
no,
university?
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. So the role, I mean, Dean of the Chapel is basically I'm the religious and spiritual kind of lead, right, across the campus. I'm the figurehead.
Mm,
I'll pray at commencement and preach a
right.
baccalaureate sermon. So there is the chapel staff, right? So we have about 20 full time, 10 part time. That's in student engagement, music, big music, community engagement, and then Christian worship staff, and development officers and other,
Yeah.
communications folks. But then in that role, then we also oversee what we call religious life at Duke, which are 24 religious groups, multi-faith,
Yeah.
rabbi, Muslim chaplain, Buddhist chaplain, Hindu chaplain. And so it's an approach. So we're kind of the convener of that,
Yeah.
So yeah, depending, I have to code switch
Yeah.
depending on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to a bunch of Christians
Yeah.
Sunday morning, if I'm in the Divinity School, that's what, if I'm talking to the senior leadership group
Yeah.
at the university, or if I'm with the Muslim students or leaders, you know what I mean? There's a
Yep.
way of a kind of multilingual. I'm still myself. Luke is Luke. I mean, I'm
Sure.
not poor, you know? And so what it calls out of me is a deep sense of humanity. Because what I am, we want, the goal is we want all students, regardless of where they come from, right, is to engage in their faith tradition.
Yep.
And so we want to kind of nurture that, make sure there's leaders to do that in their traditions. Everybody's not the same. So it's not trying to
Yeah.
do that. Right. But for me, it's the deeply human piece, right? Before anyone is whatever adjective, that's my big thing. Are you a human being?
Or an
Okay,
adjective.
right? You're that.
Yeah.
And so how do you connect with the humanity of people as a way to develop
Yeah.
relationships? Then as time goes on, we convene those religious life groups, or our assistant dean here
Yeah.
every other week. They're getting together every month, and then other gatherings, friendships form. Then you have religious literacy. Just we're in a university and understanding about
Education.
education, right? Then how do you work together? Like, are you serving in the community together? Are there other collaborations on campus?
Yeah.
Are we gathering around meals, or, where's that common ground? And I think so for me, it's really to be careful with words, but
Yeah.
also caring for words. I think that's what I mean, from the very beginning,
Mm.
it has been that. And a man named David Jarmel, who's retired here. I mean, I was driving. It was announced I was coming. Gail was driving the car. They're screening calls from news reporters and all of that. I called him my media coach. That was the dealing with the media.
Yeah.
But it was early on. It, you know, you come to understand it's not just about preaching. It's really
Yeah.
any public, an interview, or,
Yep.
that words matter because they
Right.
do shape worlds.
Yes.
They do. Literary
100%.
worlds people inhabit. And so what are the words we are using that are shaping our experiences? And they matter,
Yeah.
in our time, especially. And so for me, it's been, a call for wisdom,
Mhm.
patience,
Yep.
courage, and joy. Those are my 4.
Patience,
Those are my
wisdom,
4.
courage, and joy. So I
Yeah.
like, but I like again the fact that I think Brené Brown's on her courage hit again this week with Adam Grant, but it's this idea of the courage implies vulnerability and humility,
Yeah,
right? The
most
fact
def
that you right as you list those 4 things, and you hit courage. I'm like, that requires a humility to
yes.
say, hey, well, I'm gonna be courageous and say what I know, knowing that it may not land, and it's not, and it's my truth right now. It's not necessarily yours, and
Yeah.
sharing in that way is important.
Yes.
That's powerful.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
call that the theology of incomprehensibility,
Hmm.
because there's a not to preach,
No, go ahead. Go
but
ahead. I'm gonna give you some track. We're
well,
good.
no, part of it is God,
Yeah.
Ezekiel in the valley of dry bones, a common story, Ezekiel
Yep.
37. God asks Ezekiel, can these bones live? He says, oh, Lord God,
Yep.
right? The Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians, a couple of times when he's talking about the thorn in the flesh story, he says, I don't know, God knows. I don't know, God knows. There's a story in Acts where it says disciples from Ephesus
Hmm.
come, and Paul is there, and they say, we haven't even heard there's a Holy Spirit. Now they're disciples, and they're saying, we've never
We
even
didn't know
heard.
anything about that.
Right. He lays hands on them. But what's interesting is it says they speak in tongues and they prophesy. And so the prophesying is intelligible
Yeah.
speech. The tongues is unintelligible. Both are a gift of the Spirit. So the
Yeah.
not knowing and the not understanding is also the gift.
Is living in that tension is the
Living in
ability to
it.
be able to be in that tension of going, it's
Yes,
not known. But I think,
exactly. So to
yeah,
your point, the humility
Yep.
The intellectual and the spiritual humility means, okay, this is what I'm, putting out
Yep.
there, but I also am aware this may not be exactly what it is, or
Yeah.
it's not the whole story.
Yeah.
Or, it's like I tell people, your theology of God is not the same thing as the reality of God.
Yeah.
It's making the point to say it's your thinking, and that's great.
Yep.
But let's not fuse the two and think, okay, what I'm saying is fact,
Yeah.
or but have some humility, have some understanding that you can learn from the other, that
And
we don't know anything, right? Or everything.
yeah.
That's
And
the
that's the
part of
and that's the power, I think, of again, the age group that you're dealing with is discovering that you can be okay not having all the answers, even though well-meaning adults told us they had answers, right? You were told, watch
oh,
out for the liberals at Stanford. That happens today in the news and social media. We have a whole world
right,
right now that's left and right and center and all over the place telling people in
right.
that space, hey, this is what you should know with your certainty and stop conceding. I had a rather aggressive email from someone recently who's like, I have to stand up for something against you, Mike, because that's me conceding and I have to show like this is what I believe and this is my faith.
Mm,
And it's really interesting. What's funny, what I love about what you said about words, I always think about Helen Keller talking about how
mm,
in my paraphrase in one of her memoirs was,
yeah.
I was a humanless blob in the universe, unaware of need, want, cold, need, until the first words were thrust into my hand, right? Because she had no understanding of
Mm,
language. And
right,
then
right.
my teacher thrust the first words into my hand, and I became a human being alive in the universe.
Mm,
And how words, we were in Honduras helping with this chicken farm that we started for the small business this week. And my lead guy, Luis, says to me, Mike, we're changing the story. The little kids came so they can name the chicken
oh,
farms because the chickens are little. And Luis was like, Mike, we are changing the words that young Douglas will be able to describe his life with.
mm,
And I remember somebody saying to me one time, you cannot create a vision for a thing you can't imagine, and you cannot imagine a thing for which you don't have words for.
mm,
And when I come back to the role, we've been brothers a long time, and the
yeah,
role your brothers have played, your brother
yeah,
Emerson specifically, we
yeah,
met when I was in college. It was
right.
the power of getting new words to describe my faith.
Mm,
And it was a bigger
yeah,
vocabulary than I grew up in.
right,
And the
right.
reason why you're on this podcast with me, where I'm like an executive performance coach, is that I'm finding, and I want to kind of step into how we might help people in their 20s in this space. I find a lot of times that people come to me
Yeah.
specifically to try to figure out who they want to be at the end of their life,
Mm,
or who they want to be at the next phase of their company, or they want to be in their family. So we do we call being based vision, work backwards. And it's funny is that I'll let them do whatever they want to do to create vision. But almost always it's like, hey, well, we want to have a house. Or I had somebody
mhm,
say, well, we want to have 2 homes. And I'm like, okay. Or I want my kids to be able to do X, Y, and Z. They usually run out. It runs out
mhm,
of juice. They can't stay accountable to the things.
right.
And I've started this thing where I do with them, we do an obituary exercise where you
Oh,
write
yeah.
your obituary and work backwards, start from
Yeah.
your death and work backwards. And when I
Mm,
did some of this in my book, again, the same book that I wrote the podcast about,
mm,
I love Viktor Frankl for years and years and years ago. Like I read it forever ago. And I remember him saying that, talking about, as a psychiatrist from Auschwitz and Dachau, and again, I recommend people reading the book, Man's Search for Meaning.
mm,
As he's researching that, there was a phrase that I've kind of, my version of his phrase is, wondering why some people could survive almost anything and others would die of despair. It was a phrase that basically came out with, those who survive seem to believe that, quote, that to die prematurely meant that the universe had questions that only they could answer. And to die
mm,
early would leave those questions unanswered. And it was this
mm,
idea that the universe had written questions that only like,
yeah,
and so as I'm working with executives, I will get to a place where these are multimillionaires. These are
yeah.
startups who have sold their company on to the next thing. And they're like, yeah, what do I do now? And I'm like, talk to me about how you see the universe.
Mm,
Talk to me about which is my version of, how do you see God? How do you
right,
see?
right.
And they're like, I haven't had a chance to ask that. Like I've never, and they have traditions they
Right,
grew up in, but I'm
right.
finding that faith and your
Mm,
spirituality, the
yeah,
sooner you make that part of the decision-making equation,
yeah.
the healthier the decisions. When
Mm,
you talk to students,
Yeah.
who are trying to race to, I got to get through this so I can get into Fuqua, so I can do
Right.
X, Y, and Z.
Right.
What's your encouragement of what you're seeing where you're like, hey, these are practices where you can ask these questions, or here's
Yeah.
how you start
Yeah.
to incorporate faith into your decision making, no matter the field you're heading towards, or no matter the route that you're mapping for yourself?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are a couple of really initiatives on campus
Mm,
now, funny enough, and they called it, well, the broader, bigger university called the Purpose Project. And they doled out millions of dollars across different units. We've tapped into it a little bit too, but the whole idea was they realized, what do you want to do? The trustees, or what do you want this, like a Duke student when they come out, right? Do a list. They had a whole work group on this. There was nothing about the kind of job. It was about compassionate, you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Caring,
Yeah.
thoughtful, courage, these
Yeah.
traits. And so the whole idea has been, how do you help even though students are feeling more of what one student wrote this semester, they call it the pre-professional prison, where you feel the pressure.
The penal system,
Yes.
that is the
Of,
university.
and to how do you help students? There's like the wellness center that's been created since I've been here,
Right.
like which was mindfulness and, that kind of the surge of that and trying to help students become more whole, a holistic
Yeah.
experience. I don't know what the data is on that, how effective it's been, but for students, some students, there's initiatives, the Center for Christianity and Scholarship. It's explicit, which is an affiliate of the chapel. They're explicitly trying to help students like take classes or even like little
Yeah.
seminars. Might get a half a credit to kind of think they're not in divinity school, they're computer science, but they're a Christian in that case, and they want to kind of integrate. It's the integration so that it's not, oh, my faith, if
Yeah.
I'm a person of faith, is over here
Yeah.
and then everything else is here. The challenge is, how do we help people, students, bring it together?
Yeah.
And often I think what I'm seeing is you got to, even though it's tough. I mean, I have children, my son's a sophomore. I see how busy,
Yep.
they're on the grind, or if they just want to have fun or whatever, in between. It's how do you help them slow down enough, or what Howard
Yeah.
Thurman, watch oneself pass by. How good
Yeah.
it is to center down and watch her. And then that's the challenge and the opportunity, because I do think when you slow down and start pondering, right? Because you feel the rat race. You feel like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to miss out, FOMO or whatever it
Right.
might be. But to reflect on your life, reflect on the world, whatever it
Yeah.
might be. But it's like you got to almost get quiet. Thurman
Yeah.
says silence is the door to God. And
Yeah.
there's this sense that I'm getting all the noise, TikTok and all the stuff
Right.
you can do through your phone. It's like constant. So to slow down, silent, and that's when things come up in your
Mm.
life, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
So I think there's a desire, like we have a resurgence of it's crazy through the chapel post
Mm.
COVID, and this year, the stuff that's going on, we have a program called Chapel Scholars. We're bringing in, like, there's going to be a total of 140 now, which is probably the biggest number ever, but 50 new scholars this week. That's amazing.
It's a whole
Like,
resurgence of
it's a
talking about
Christian
asking
ecumenical, like,
faith questions, asking like
yeah,
they're asking different questions.
yeah, and you can see that there's a
Yeah.
kind of interest. Because I think, we know the mental health statistics are crazy,
Yeah.
high.
No, yeah.
And that rat race, I think there's a sense that, there's more here,
Mhm.
there's more. I don't, even if I am a person of faith, how I'm
Yeah.
doing this is not,
Yeah.
necessarily the healthiest,
It,
you know?
it's different for all of us. I think
Yeah, it is.
what you're talking about is so key though, is that the purpose question. And in
Oh,
fact,
yeah.
if I could spend my time, I mean, coaching executives and athletes and the rest of pays the bills. But I think if I had a message endlessly, it's about the purpose question. I was telling
Hmm.
somebody when World War II hits, it was let's save democracy from communist atrocity or whatever. World War
Hmm.
II, I mean, not
Yeah.
communist, but fascist, the
Yeah.
Nazis, Pearl Harbor. That whole generation got we saved America, good job. and purpose,
Right.
right? Then you
Right.
have the reaction of the free love of the 70s where you're like, fight the Vietnam War. There's protests, they're
Right.
fighting against the rules, and it's a unified thing. The
Hmm.
80s come and it becomes, you get yours, greed is good a little bit more. And I'll never
Right.
forget, I remember 9/11 and someone's like, you want to know why people struggle? 9/11 occurs and we're told, don't worry, go shopping, go to restaurants, don't let the terrorists win. That's a different message in the community and in the world around us on what is
Yeah.
purpose. And then the systems start to fall apart. We have 2008 and we have financial crisis and we have COVID. And then we have
Right.
politics and we have cost
Right.
of living for the first time, outreaching in ways it's never outreached before, home ownership and these
Mm.
things. And I feel like people, especially young adults, meaning younger than us, 30 and under, how's that?
Yeah.
They're being let, we had to pick through the voices telling us what purpose was.
Yeah.
I feel like a generation now is asking questions about how
Hmm.
might I find my purpose? Because if I don't find it on my own, the algorithm will simply sell it to me.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
algorithm will, and so I'll get reinforced or maybe get out there. And so finding a way to go, how do I find meaning?
Yeah.
How do I conceive that? I think is a crux because you can make decision and then incorporate that into your decisions, not just
Yeah.
your feelings.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That why.
Yeah.
The why. I mean, and yes, I mean that's because it's just like you're saying, right? It's the lens through which you can
Yeah.
decide, how to live or whatever, what job to take or not, and totally,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, I think it is a chat. That's why they gave all that money.
Yeah.
I mean, there was, and going
Yeah.
back for more
And
for
that's,
the
I think it's a
Purpose
good,
Project because it is important.
yep.
I don't think we figured out, we meaning the larger university, how to steward that, how to, I don't know, make it more effective.
Hmm.
But it's fluid. There's always students coming and going. So it's like it's an experiment. It's a
Yeah.
laboratory of
Yeah.
learning and discovery, right? And questioning. I think that's, in
Yeah.
some ways what I love about universities. It's a lab.
It is such a great I mean, I love the fact that you're still able to serve people in that space because it is such a, what they say, some of the most powerful decisions you'll make are made before the age of 27. It's like that,
Yeah.
the angle and the trajectory of things.
Mm,
I mean, some of what you've said just really, again, for those of you who wonder if you've been listening as you listen to Luke, like, I'm like, I can't wait to see your strengths themes. I'm going to send you another code.
okay,
Because I'm like
please
the
do.
communication part. So one, communication is all about telling stories, individualization spots uniqueness, but the connectedness of spirituality.
Mm,
Connectedness is a spider web of impact, like a ripple, like ripples in a pond that intersect to create waves. Even in your
mhm,
story, the way you describe that,
mm,
I find it powerful. But I love the people in place thing. But what I really like is the fact that in the midst of responding to being to places and the people you're meeting there, there's still a sense of you and
yeah.
wondering about, hey, it's a story I'm still writing about myself. It's a story of
Oh,
a meaning that I'm still writing,
oh yeah.
and finding, and you're at, we're at 50. I'm assuming unless we live to be 120, we're at least halfway.
Right.
Um, at least we're at least halfway there
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
that space. As you keep writing that story, a lot of people who listen to this, average podcast listeners are 35 to 55 on this show, which is
Mm,
interesting.
mm, mm.
Is this question of going, a lot of people end up, I have people saying, I love what I'm doing. I'm got on the train. I'm fully committed to where the train's going. But what if it's going to the wrong destination? And what
Hmm.
if I want to get off? And how do I know
Yeah.
in that space, sitting where you sit now and navigating more questions? You've been there a
Yeah.
while. Like for yourself, what do you feel like is key for somebody to anchor their confidence to go, whatever I need to do, whatever my situation, I can't lose the voice of me that likely is whispered by God if we're
Yeah.
cultivating that voice and listening.
Yeah.
How do I let that be in the center and not just simply reactive? In a world too, where people are being told what to think or they're about their faith or they're navigating that question to bring you into the conversations with humility, to the
Mhm.
unknowns about faith, the unknown
Oh, yeah.
spirituality. How do you continue to keep you and who
Mm.
you are in
Yeah.
your faith as you search for purpose for yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Easy questions, bro. You know
Yeah.
me.
I know. Easy.
People think I can only talk strengths themes. I'm like, no, 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 no. Come on.
Indeed.
Let's go
No, I
deep.
mean, you know, It's funny because I think what's helped me continue to be me here, right? Voice is linked up to vocation,
Mhm.
vocars from the same Latin word. And so that's metaphorical, but it's also physiological. And so, but when I think about that, the voice, physical, musical
Mhm.
family, harmonicas passed down from generation on my mother's side. I have my one that was given to her in 1975, almost
Mhm.
as old as me. I have it.
Hmm.
What I'm saying is cultural memory.
Yep.
That's family history. Um, like I'm remembering. That's my answer for today. I'm remembering where I came from, like the people. I remember Grandma Alice. I remember, we're in the coming
Yeah.
up to All Saints. I remember Aunt Letha, my mom's sisters, Aunt Eura, Aunt Dar, the ones I knew.
Yeah.
That it's like, don't forget. You know what's sitting on my desk? I'm gonna make another move, and this is I'm facing out, but my desk on the end here, I have two things, elements. One, oh, I'll show you. This is from the Holy Land, okay?
Mhm.
A plate and a cup,
Mhm.
communion from
Yep.
Tapka. And then next to it, I have Arizona iced tea and Skittles. Now,
That's
but
you.
you know what? I don't know, but do you know what these symbolize? Trayvon Martin,
Hmm. 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 Yep.
2012, when he was killed in
Right.
Sanford,
Right.
Florida. He
Right.
was carrying these.
Skittles and
Yes,
Arizona iced
and
tea.
and what that
Hmm.
be and what's interesting, he was killed in Sanford, Florida, visiting his dad, but he was living with his mother in Miami Gardens, which is where my
Which is
parents
where you,
still live, where I
yeah,
grew up.
where your parents are.
So I've been here 13 years. I've had
Yep.
these things on my desk the whole time.
Hmm.
Plus, so a woman sent me this. She makes these crosses, a woman I don't even know, a nonprofit organization for migrants
Hmm.
that are unidentified, discovered in the deserts in New Mexico who
Hmm.
have crossed them.
Yep. Who
They're
crossed
a
and died
number.
alone.
This,
Hmm.
so how do I keep my voice? I
Yep.
see it every day. It's the
Yep.
memorial. It's don't forget
Yep.
the marginalized. Don't forget the vulnerable.
Yep.
Don't forget the outsiders.
Yeah.
That's how I keep my voice as well. It's visual. I'm in what they call the Harry Potter office,
Sure. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
I'm
It is. I'm like, I
and
expected Phoenix in the corner,
yeah,
McGonagall
but
in
it's
behind.
kind of remembering
Yep.
those that
Yep.
are often dismembered or not remembered,
Yep.
but also remembering kind of roots, family roots,
Yeah.
history, generations.
Yep.
But what does that do? It come from humble roots. It keeps me
Yeah.
grounded, but that's a
Totally.
part of my story. That's where, the voice. Yes, all these so-called elite schools, but to be honest, that's not
Yeah.
who I am at my core. My work isn't who I am,
Yeah.
right? But it's my calling, my sense of calling to be in this spaces to engage faith and scholarship and in higher ed, right? I
Yep.
love it. I love that. And
But
and all walks of life,
yeah.
from the housekeepers to the president of the university. I report to the president. And it's that whole mix of people that has helped me become more fully human. I
Yeah.
think I come back to that. That has become such a theme for me in keeping my voice,
Hmm.
because it's a human voice. That's why I will sing from the pulpit still. I preach today, which
Yeah.
is rare, at the Divinity School, you
Nice.
know? And why? I sang because that's me.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
trying to be someone else,
Yeah.
take it or leave it. Now that comes with time. That might come
Sure.
with tenure. That might come with tenure too.
You
But,
know,
but
you know, not just saying it's a bust down song. I mean, it has its advantages,
right. But
but
it's
yeah.
embracing that. But that's been a journey.
Yeah.
That doesn't come out. You come out the
Right.
womb, and that has been the journey of discovering the voice, finding your voice, however you want to say it, to live into that vocation more
Mhm.
fully. I'm on that journey.
Yeah. And I
It's
think
not
you're right.
over.
I think you're right. But what I, is again, for people who are listening, what I hear, if let's say you're like, man, I want my decisions to be deeper, your spiritual and your spirituality, your understanding of God, your faith is going to be key. But I think practicing that, be it through your faith tradition, your church, your community, your spiritual director, whoever you meet with, what I love in the midst of what you're saying is, one, I would love for people to recognize they're part of a story that began before they did. Where did
Mm,
your story start? The story of the life that you're living from your family or the faith you grew up in or whatever, is
right,
that if you're like, man, how do I deepen this? I would say start there by becoming a student of the story to which you've been born into.
right.
And then ask yourself what part I'm playing that first, is that question
Mm,
of what story am I being written in, is writing? And then what part do I want to play? What voice
yeah,
do I want to say in that? Is that how can I contribute to that and believe that it is a story that is going on past you?
that's
Is I
right.
think living for me, the existence of
Mm,
it, for me, my own belief, the existence of eternity is a key component to me. Because for me, I'm like, 90 years is a short time, and if people are miserable, it's a short window. Like, so I believe in eternal souls as part of my own
yeah.
faith. What's funny is that anchors how I show up in the world as an executive coach. Is that
Mm,
I can afford to be super generous now because 90 years isn't the end, because life exists beyond that. And so
right.
I believe in eternity and these things. That existence, that to me shapes how I choose to invest. It shapes how I choose to live
Yes.
in ways. And I come to my own faith by that. I step into that, but
Mhm,
I think it's the
mhm.
journey of going, and what's my voice? And how do I get to contribute it? My voice sounds very different from my parents. It sounds very
Right.
different from them,
Mhm,
which
mhm.
sounds
Yeah,
very different from Italian immigrants who left Sicily on the back of a donkey in 1918, you know?
right,
And I'm
right.
going, huh. So what is my contribution? And I think the other thing, one, know the story you're in, but two, we know this in athletes when it comes to visualization of motor function performance,
Mm,
visualizing things,
yeah.
putting words in your head, like with language, with seeing and activity, keeping the touchstones of your faith in front of you, keeping the things that are the physical reminders, like
Mm,
the cross. I think we've gotten away from that and need it more. Do you
mm,
have things on your wall? Do you have things that
right,
matter? And I think
right.
building that in deepens the sense of faith and purpose, which then
Mm,
ties with what kind of company do I want my business to be? What kind of impact as a teacher do I
mm,
want to have on my students?
mm, mm.
And I think people are missing the purpose and just going for the transactional, and it's
Right.
leading us astray to exhaustion and burnout.
Yeah, yeah. That purpose, it's yeah, just thinking about the physical objects looking at the mirror, it grounds me.
It does.
Through every circumstance, the highs, the lows, whatever, it
Yep.
grounds me,
Yep.
and I think that's and what it's like you're remembering the future, kind of
Mm.
what you're talking about. You're looking back,
Yep.
and all of that you're remembering, but you're also there's a future that you're remembering as well, and all of
Of
that
who
is
will
a
be down
part,
there.
or the future that you
Yep.
remember is helping you now, right, in the
Yep.
present, and yeah, and in many ways, we're remembering the future
Yeah.
through our every decision.
Yes.
Every decision. It's
Was it Miroslav Volf who wrote a great book on? Was he the
yeah,
one who wrote?
it was Wolf or Moltmann, and he was a kind of a student of Moltmann.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're influenced by him.
You're pretty proud of me being able to drop Miroslav, aren't you? Remembering my deep theological days.
Remember, yeah,
Man,
no.
thank you. I mean, just thank you so much for having this conversation with me. This is
Oh,
fun. I think it's a deeper
this is
thing. It's not
fun.
typical. It's not typical to
No,
expect.
I so
So
appreciate the invite, Mike,
yeah,
and to do this with you and
it's
think
been
about
fun.
where we've come from.
And we're not done yet. Hey, we're not done yet. We're not done.
No, and where
You
we're
know,
going.
where we're gonna go. Exactly. Oh gosh. If you are following along at home, just so you know, it means a lot. It helps us find other people. If you'll like and share, put a comment, all those other things. Also, we do a thing called Crossroad Clarifier, which is like 5 questions that kind of get you asking, am I ready for a change in that and even more? Or if you just have comments and you're like, hey, what about faith and purpose? We'll throw resources. I'll tie up with some folks that I know that might be able to chat with you about that. But it means a lot. All the engagement, as you can imagine, makes a big difference in helping us find other people. So please do that, like and share. Again, Luke, appreciate you. It won't be the last time. We're going to try to chat again. I can tell. Another deep
Awesome.
conversation. Thanks so
Well,
much,
thanks
brother.
so
Thank you
much,
guys. See you
Mike.
next week.